Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good following morning. This is AMA number 60. We have reached 60. AMA number 60. My special guest today is a very, very cool guy, rapper Kosha Dillz. Rami Matan Even Esh, aka Kosha Dillz, is here with me. In a few minutes, it is AMA, as I said, number 60. Today is May I never know, I never know the date. May 13th, just about to say that, Thursday the 13th, and talked to Kosha Dillz, very, very interesting guy, had a crazy career, real ups and downs. Now it's on a big up, and we're gonna talk to him in a few minutes. Get to him in just a couple minutes. Had some technical difficulties, still starting a few minutes late. I hope you guys can see me now and we are all good. Just getting down the technical. There we go. Benji, let's do this. Indeed, Benji, love it. I'm going to talk about what's going on in a minute. Just first get to some Corona issues in Poland, as we usually do. Things are opening up. The government is accelerating their timetable of removing restrictions. So things are the most open that they've been since October. Starting tomorrow, you don't have to wear a mask in public. Outdoor dining is reopening, which is very, very cool. Sports, you can up to 150 people can participate in sports. Schools are reopening a little bit. Movie theaters are opening on May 21st, 50% capacity, which is very cool. And a big one for us here, outdoor amusement parks can reopen. No, I'm just kidding. I've never been to a Polish amusement park, but I believe they are a thing because on Ride for the Living, we ride past Energylandia, which is always exciting. And then school things continue during May to reopen. And then by the end of May, I think things are going to be pretty much open. Again, assuming that there's no massive spike in COVID, which obviously you never know. So that's what's going on. Obviously, the big news, very upsetting, very difficult situation that we see going on today in Israel. So before anything else, just sending much love and best wishes to everyone in Israel, our families and friends, our brothers and sisters in Israel. Really tragic what's happening there on both sides, really. It's tragic for the people in Gaza, and it's tragic for the people in Israel. I don't mean to equate blame. It's not that at all. I'm just saying that anybody who's suffering because rockets are being launched at them is a pretty terrible thing. And we hope peace, yes, but we hope that quiet and ceasefire will come into effect soon, and things can get back to normal. Hello, Ava. Hello, Sida. My dad is watching. Hello, Dad. And of course, Benji, love it. We have apologies from Jeffrey Rolat, who is busy today. I want to say the Kathy Bates, Benji might be the Kathy Bates, but one or two candidate for the Kathy Bates biggest fan, or as we would say, the stan of the AMA. So one of you can be Benji, you can be Stan, and Jeffrey will be Kathy Bates, the biggest fan. So hoping that quiet will come back to Israel soon. I don't think it's going to be very quiet very soon. To be honest, I think because of the escalation of Hamas actually sending as many missiles as they've done so far and continue to do in the middle of the country, I think that means that the response needs to be a strong response from Israel, because a new status quo has been established. And I think that Israel doesn't want that to be the case, that, when something like this happens, there are rockets getting sent in Tel Aviv, and now something landed near Eilat, which is the farthest a rocket has ever been sent from Gaza. So I think that to avoid this becoming the new reality, Israel's response will be a very strong response. It wouldn't surprise me if Israel went in on the ground, went into Gaza, which is going to mean a lot of bloodshed on both sides, unfortunately. But I don't know if there's a way out of it. I think one of the real most upsetting aspects of all of this is seeing the rioting going on, the fighting between Jews and Arabs, or Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews within Israel proper, in cities like Lod and all around Israel, in mixed cities. You in Akko, you have a lot of very, very disturbing things going on, really terrible acts of violence going on both sides, which is a problem. If you think about it, Israel is such a strange country, miraculous in many ways in terms of technology, in terms of finally having our homeland after 2,000 years. There's a lot of real wonderful things about Israel, obviously. But that comes at a price, and I think part of the cost is this very complicated situation that Israel finds itself in. In other words, Israel, you have this territory that's not part of Israel, that eventually, hopefully, I think for many of us, will become a country, but not yet. And then that is made up of Palestinians, but then you have people, Israeli Arabs living inside Israel, who are essentially the same people as those Palestinians, but they're the ones inside of Israel, and they are sort of in this different category. So it's very complicated, obviously, when things like this happen and there's bombings, rockets being sent from Gaza, and then Israel's bombing Gaza, bombing Hamas, trying not to bomb civilians, obviously, which is, of course, the big difference between Israel and Hamas, to not equate the two. Hamas is a terror organization dedicated to the destruction of Israel, and Israel is a sovereign nation state trying to defend itself. We can say defending itself well or not well, no question, but Hamas is dedicated to the destruction of Israel, and that's unacceptable and not to be equated. But this idea of when violence flares up, as it does, with this unsettled situation, that you have people who are essentially the same people as Gaza and family members, but they're in Israel and considered, and they're citizens, full citizens of Israel, is very complicated. And in the past, I think we've been very lucky of avoiding widespread situations like this. I guess in 2000, you have had some elements of internal strife in Israel in these mixed cities. It has happened before, but I don't think it has happened to the degree that we're seeing it, which is always a danger. So Israel fighting external enemies is one thing. Israel locked in a sort of civil war with itself, an actual civil war of fighting and bloodshed, is something that Israel, I don't think, has been very well prepared for, which is really, really tragic. Maybe it's naive to think that Israeli Arabs can be full citizens of Israel while you still have this unsettled Palestinian issue. I don't know. It's a complicated, very complicated thing. There's no easy analogy to say, oh, but if Canada was doing this in the United States and all this, it's very tough to come up with analogies like that. But it certainly is a mess, and it's unfortunate. And I hope that that it will, all of us are hoping that the situation will calm down soon. I can tell you that as somebody who's an Israeli citizen, somebody who served in the army, for me, times like this, it's incredibly difficult not to be in Israel. You think, oh, it's good not to be there during this, but I feel like it's the opposite. And Israelis that I've spoken to in the last few days feel the same, that, you really feel disconnected, and you feel guilty for not being there when the rest of your fellow Israelis are going through something that you're not going through. You're on one level, of course, you're happy that you're not going through that, but you do feel, this idea of guilt that you're not where you're supposed to be at this point. So that's generally where things are with Israel. Maybe one other positive, nice, sort of end things and so negative, as we bring on Kosha Dillz. But we're doing something nice, which is starting to reopen, besides the preschool, which has been mostly open throughout the year. This Sunday, before Shavuot, which is coming, we are going to do a really special pre-Shavuot party for our Holocaust survivors. We are doing a pizza party with pizza made by yours truly, homemade pizza in my pizza oven for the seniors, and then cheesecake and ice cream. So just when the seniors are all healthy and vaccinated, we're going to pump them full of ice cream, cheesecake, and pizza, and see how that goes. So that's going to be this Sunday, which is very exciting. We really haven't seen them at the JCC in a long, long time. Benji asks a question. Do I consider myself more of an American Jew or a Jewish Pole or American Israeli or Polish American or JCC Krakow executive director? American Jew, Jewish Pole. I think that I probably see myself as a Jewish, Krakowian, Israeli, New Yorker, vegetarian, executive director of JCC Krakow. Those would be my pizza loving director. Those would be my that would be my affiliations if we have to. But yeah, the more hyphens you get, the more complicated it is. We live in a world where we have complex identities, things that we never even understood were that complex. Gender, things like that are far more complex than people realized, and that's the world that we live in. So yeah, it's interesting though. I will just say that I feel connected to Krakow. I feel connected to New York. So the cities more than the countries, but in Israel, it's more about Israel. Of course, we all know my heart is with Yod Fatah, always and forever, but I do feel a connection to the country. Maybe because Israel is so small, you can feel a connection to it as a country. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest, Rami Matan Even Esh, AKA Kosha Dillz. Kosha Dillz is a hip hop artist, a rapper, a freestyle hip hop artist, an incredibly talented, quick guy who's worked with a ton of people, and he's done a ton of great stuff, and is just one of the more interesting, cool guys that I know. So I feel all the more hipper for having Kosha Dillz with me. How are you doing today?
What's
Rami
going on?
Kosha.
I'm just setting it all up. I'm here on the. I feel like my background isn't perfect for podcasting. It seems like more of an insane asylum than the house of the JCC Krakow. But here I am.
How you doing, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. What a pleasure. What an honor that I virtually returned to Krakow.
Well, we'll get you back here in
Yeah, I can't wait. You know, this year, this summer. Who knows? Let's come. Let's get it going.
Let's do it. Tell me, so I'm of course following everything that's going on in Israel. Talked about that a little bit. I'm sure you have family still in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, so you're in touch with them. That's just is that a difficult? Is it difficult to be an American Israeli? I know your parents Israeli, born in the U.S., but spend time and you're kind of American Israeli for sure. Is it difficult to be out of Israel at a time like this, or are you happy that you're out of Israel during the craziness?
No, it's interesting. It's like I want to be there. It's like I remember I just remember when I was there last time. I think the last time there was such an offensive by Hamas, it was 2019 November, and I just remember the bombs go like the Iron Dome going off in my neighborhood in Yafo, and you're like, yo, like that's not the feeling you get is kind of crazy, um, but that's just how I feel. It's always feel in my heart. It's like whenever something bad is there, you want to go home, and this is how I feel about Israel. So it's like when something bad happens, you want to go home and just be there for whatever the purpose is. To be there is different, I guess, each time, but I don't know. It's always like my initial instinct.
Yeah, I
But
feel
my
it too.
family's good, thank God. I families in the north. My great aunt, she's in Rishon LeZion, so I had just called her a few hours ago, which was nice to just talk to her for a little bit. And yeah, friends seem to be okay, and not too many casualties out there, so thank God. And trying not to. I'm trying not to actually watch all the videos because it just seems to be um, overwhelming because we're privileged not to be there right now, right? We're all out
Yeah.
doing our own thing here,
I guess it's
Poland,
crazy
New
also
York.
with
So
everyone having everyone with just the world is so different visually, right? With everyone with cell phones, you see everything, right? So I'm sure we've all seen all the photos, people holding the camera out the window, and it looks like video games going off outside with all the rockets. I mean, just crazy number. So let's
yeah,
hope things
hmm
quiet down soon.
it seems quieter. So yeah, let's hope so.
Wow, at least it's
So
quiet here
this,
between us. It's quiet. Tell me, Coach Dills, were you always, because and I want to talk about sort of go through your career a little bit and stuff that you've done or whatever. But the freestyle rap
uh
is such a fascinating thing to me, and I want to talk in a little bit about that. because it's such a different kind of, so you have to be so quick and just sort of on top of things. Have you always been good? And it's just poetry. It's absolute poetry. Have you always been good with words? Is that like, were you a kid? Were you always like, writing things and combining words that way? Or is that just something that since you got into music?
Yeah, I was more of just a writing rhymes, and I think the more I wrote, the more the more I wrote, the more I was able to, have more of a base vocabulary rhyme pattern. I've been writing since I was, I don't know, I think the first rhyme I wrote, I was like 14, 15 maybe. Um, then, just dabbling in it. The more so like writing when I was like 17 and 18, 19, just writing, and then the freestyling thing started coming out in about 2006 when I would just get a little bit of a moment on stage to kick a freestyle because no one cared about my songs. Like just no one was impressed and everyone was doubtful. So you got to impress them on the spot. And the person I was rapping with at the time, named C-Rays Walls, he was who was also actually had played a lot in Poland with So-Called and I think Frank London in their klezmer, and he
Oh,
played. He was playing in Krakow, and he's like, the rabbis love me, and this is when I first heard of these like Krakow, Jewish festival. That freestyle just became. I was like, wow, I was only getting 2 minutes of an opportunity, and so I didn't get a chance to do my song, so because they weren't playing the original beat, they were playing something else. So I was like, I just gotta kick a freestyle and just
yeah.
learned how to kind of work a crowd by trial and error. Sometimes it was better, sometimes it wasn't, sometimes it was good, sometimes it, could have been.
You've gotten very good at it. I'll tell you. I see you do. I see a lot of what you do, and anytime you
Thanks,
post
man.
something, I'm watching it, and it's impressive. Were you musical? Were you like musical as a kid, or is it
I played
just?
trumpet until 8th grade, and that was it. I really wish That's like my
How did
dream
you
to
get
pick it
into it?
back up.
How do you become? You talked about it. How does one become? You weren't like necessarily wildly musical. How did you start writing lines? Like, how did you get into it? Because obviously, there's. I mean,
Hmm.
the rap is part of it, but there's obviously a musical awareness. You're clearly into it. You're a fan of sort of what come.
Yeah,
See that you're a student a little bit of what came before you.
I always loved melodies. I just remember listening to like when I was young. Even I started like going to like bar mitzvahs and stuff. It was like Ace of Base. Like I just remember being into like pop melodies, like Ace of Base. Remember when I was 17, I was listening to like underground rap, but I was also listening to like digital underground. Rest in peace, Shock G. Um, just like and my one of my best neighborhood friends, Yashar. Yeah, Yashar Zadeh, Yak Balls was his rap name, and he was this big rapper in New York, who was just in the underground hip hop scene and in the battle scene, and he would come visit his family, like like his stepmom and his father on the weekends. While he lived with his mom in Queens, so like we were all like, "Wow, he's like the cool guy that's coming to hang out with us on the weekends from New York." And we were in Jersey, and I would go and we were like, trying to rap with him, and he would always have his really tight written verses. He was a great writer, and he brought me. We went to go support him one time, and then there was a space on stage, and that's how I got into it, And like my other neighborhood friend Dale, we listened to Wu Tang and was happy, So that was that time when we were teenagers, drinking and smoking and jumping into ciphers and just trying to, and this was we grew up 30 minutes away from Staten Island, which was at the from 95 to like 99. I mean, when Wu
Yeah.
Tang, this is like the biggest thing, this was they're selling hundreds of thousands to millions of records. And we're like,
It's like the
wow,
biggest thing ever from Staten Island, if you think about. I think, right?
yeah, yeah. And it's just, that definitely penetrated into New Jersey. And you're just like, wow, it was such a craze. Like, this is the rap that we grew up on: B.I.G., Tupac, Wu
Yeah.
Tang. Um,
And once
so,
you performed, were you hooked? Like, was that so you go on stage, you perform
yes,
that time. Was that like the light bulb goes off? Wow, this is amazing. I want to do this.
yes,
Like, focus on this.
yeah. Rapping in a battle world, is battling other people. Plus, I was a wrestler, so I loved competition. I loved confrontation. It was
What
something
weight?
for
What
me.
weight did you? What was your weight?
Uh, such a kind of funny. It's such a
Because it's
wrestling
tough with the weight.
question.
You're always dropping, right? The Wrestlers, the whole thing with losing
Yeah,
all the weight before and all
I
that.
was like 145, 152, 160, 174 in college. I wrestled for 2 years in college, so Yeah.
How's the Rutgers wrestling team?
Now they're legendary. Now they're, now they're Big Ten. Back when I was, it was like the EIWA. It was
Yeah.
they weren't as good, but we had one like All American at the time. Um, but yeah, man. So wrestling was really like the driving force of like rap competition. I just loved it. Excuse me.
Bless you. And discipline.
Yes.
I mean, I see you, people think, oh, musicians, rappers, they might not know, but people who know you a little bit understand that you are an incredibly disciplined, hardworking. I mean, you are like the hardest working guy. Was wrestling good preparation for that? Just because I think there's such discipline with wrestling as opposed a lot of sports, obviously, sports easy, but wrestling itself is a lot of discipline.
Yeah. And it's funny when people make that comparison. I want to thank you for that. Like wrestling, even if you're lazy, it's still like it could be more strenuous and arduous than like tennis or baseball or football.
Yeah.
Suppose a lot of stop and go, stop and go. And wrestling's like go, 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 go. End of practice. Now go some more, and
Yeah.
then do it 6 days a week, and lose 6 pounds into practice. And like and that's not physically normal when you look at your weight and you're like, oh, I'm 152 and I need to at the end of the day I need to be 145, and that's your day. Like
Yeah.
now you're like, I have to send 50 emails. I mean, it's just, I think taking that mentality into battle rap or taking that mentality into life, wrestling is just prepares you to work harder. And even when you're being lazy, like I think I'm lazy, everyone thinks I work the hardest, but
Yeah.
I think it's how you work, how what you're comparing yourself to. I know people that
Yeah.
work way harder than me, and I think many people do. I don't think I work properly, but I know people mean it in good intention. They're like, you just work so hard. But ultimately, as a competitor, um, who loves competition and wrestling in life, I want to be known for my work. I don't want to be known for working hard. There's plenty of people work hard and don't have anything, and plenty of people, are known for their work because they obviously work hard and then they have all the success to go along with it.
Yeah.
So,
I just think more like being responsible. I just find like a lot of people in the
mm,
world are very irresponsible, and
okay.
especially artists.
Ooh.
Artists can
Yes.
be all different across the board, whether it's a painter or somebody. I just think that there's an
Right. I
idea.
think the consensus of it is like, oh, you're just like some weird, gone with the wind artist. And
Yeah,
yeah, you need a lot of discipline to make, to turn your art into a business and to a structure and to have depth and to have meaning and to help others and to encourage others and to inspire others, all while, keeping it structured for your own thing, right? It's like the same thing with what you guys are doing. You're coming out there, you're creating a scene, you're creating a community, you're creating activities, you're being welcoming, you're having difficult conversations, you're having honest conversations, you're having light things to, and it's a for an artist too. It's like, it's not all like, I chose not to be all music, just listen to my music, just listen to my music, just listen, and remove myself. I don't
yeah.
have the privilege of that. It's for me, so I have to do a lot. I have to, try from
And
all
I
different.
think for most, the way as I see it, it's like in any discipline, there are going to be the 1% of the 1% of the 1% who are just so incredibly. It's like if you're a physicist, there may be some people that are such geniuses that they don't really need to do anything and it just flows through. But for most other people, there's a lot of people that are talented. It's just a question of, some of it is a little bit of luck and the rest of it is working hard, right? Like, that's
Yeah,
the category. And the difference
e-
between being successful and unsuccessful, is about working hard. There are plenty of people that are as talented as anybody, right? But
right.
they're not
Talent
going to make
is
it, right?
right. Exactly. At least for music, I mean, there's plenty of talented people, but I always equate it to like, I'm sure there's people that know a lot, right, about religion, but it doesn't mean they're going to be a rabbi that leads a congregation
Right.
or a priest that leads a church, and
Right.
has his, supporters and his community that he's built. You don't need to know the entire Bible to do that. You know what I mean? You just need to be someone that's like just willing to do the work, right? And I think that gets sort of lost in today's thing is of instant gratification, is that many of us love to know it all but aren't taking the time to learn, you
Fair enough.
know um yeah, I
Yeah.
think I could equate that into what's happening today. uh A lot of people know about hip hop and or hip hop, but it doesn't mean they're an artist. And like, it's very humbling to be rapping for as long as I can and having to go back to, stuff that's even smaller than when I started, um, to grow again, and say, oh, it's not working. We have to go back to the drawing board, because the basics of hard work, showing up early, I think it'd be applied to every area of life. You could always write a better song. You could write another song. You could do another program, something that's going to attract more people. You have to do new things, and that's, I think, an analogy, that we could always use for life, that should never be too smart to go back to the beginning.
I, li- I like to say that we as an organization, and I think that I feel it about myself. Like I would say, like you, I feel like I'm lazy too. And I would say that I think there are two people in the world that think I'm lazy, probably me and Kasha, me and my wife, and everybody
Mhm.
else. Oh, you work so hard, 24 hours a day. But I look at it like compared to what? Like I also feel the same. And I think that I want the JCC to be relentlessly self-improving. And I want myself to be, whether I'm 50 now or 70 or whatever, I think there's always, this idea of improving. It becomes a challenge when you're managing other people, right? Because then I feel like I have to also make people feel appreciated and not just say, wait, at the end of the day, think, what could I have done more? What could I have done better? Because you can be too extreme with that, like anything else.
Mhm.
So,
I just realized that I could change my name. I'll just change it to Kosha Dillz.
oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, boom.
So, I mean, what have been some challenges for you in terms of that? Like, I think when you were younger and started, okay, you go and you have some success on stage, you like it, with your parents, because listen, we're all coming from these Jewish families that have certain expectations, and if you're coming from an artistic family, then it's probably easier. But if you're not coming from a family of artists, then I'm sure that they're like, where most Jewish families, oh, go be a doctor, a scientist, or whatever, or in the hip hop world, was it coming initially, maybe your parents were like, what are you doing? Or maybe it was anti-Semitism in the hip hop world, or maybe not. Like, have there been what have been challenges for you that you've had to, and still, I guess, are overcoming?
Well, I think when I started, I mean, I had to get arrested a few times in my life. So my first thing was like tackling addiction, right? And getting arrested as far as um being 19 and getting arrested, and then I was this, and then going to programs and getting arrested when I was 18, and getting arrested when I was 19, and going to court when I was 20, and going to jail when I was 20 and turning 21 in jail, and then getting out and being on parole and being probation, and then going in again when I was 22. You know what I mean? And then you're like, all right, now when's this gonna stop? And then you're like, okay, we're stopping. Okay, now there's some time, and he's still doing his thing. Okay, he's going back out. You gotta be careful, and all right, I got to go to finish school, right? And you finish school, and you're like, I want to go on tour. And you're like, all right, that's what you're gonna do. I think there was like a time around 2008, and for me, it was like I could work in a couple fields. And the only I don't think people understand my background, so I just want to give you guys a background. I come from an Israeli family background. Um, Everyone's an independent business owner. My father had his own thing. My brother Zach has his own thing, his own gym and strength training stuff. My other brother Alon does a Shomer 360 Krav Maga. He does training, self defense for Orthodox Jews in the New York City area and beyond, and trains people self defense. From attackers, robbers. And that's like we all do our own thing. So I think I come from a community of self starters more versus like musicians.
Mhm.
Um, People just wanted me to be okay, and I think the rest just figure it out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny to ask my dad for like advice on business and stuff, or things like that, because it's just we he was an engineer, you know what I mean? So, um, but you learn people skills, and the main goal was for me to be like off drugs, and I've been sober close to 17 years. So
So how
now,
did you do that? How do you, obviously you have addiction, people are predisposed, right? This idea that
mhm,
people are predisposed to this type, to addiction, and jail. So obviously things, you had issues that you had to overcome, and you did. Was there a huge change, or you just like, wait a minute,
yeah,
growing
for
up, or
for the
something
third
more like
time,
definitive?
for the third time when I got arrested in my life like 3 times. Well, now I've been arrested 4 times, which we'll get into that later. Last summer, but I don't really talk about that arrest because that was like it was at a rally and stuff like that. I didn't really I wasn't like rallying really. I just got arrested there. Um, but when when I thought of what stopped, I felt that my what I got caught with on my third arrest um, was that um, there was like a sign from God, I thought, and I had like had some prayers. And I mean, I was like really deep in like in a really emotional bottom, deeper than like a physical drug bottom. Than I was, and I thought to myself, you know what? It, I needed to get arrested to stop. Like there was no way I would stop. I give props to anyone. It's like I'm just gonna stop and go get help because you couldn't tell me I wasn't voluntarily gonna go get help. You know what I mean? I was gonna go out guns blazing, and that's what happened. I was like in the center of campus, running from police. People were chasing me down, sting operation, and I didn't get caught with a certain amount of drugs that I thought that I did have, and that somehow I felt was a sign for me to get like it's a glimmer of a chance to not go to prison for like another 5 years or 10 years for what I had on me, and and I voluntarily put myself in all these programs, and I was just ready to change, and I was also ready not to go to prison. I think not wanting to get in trouble is a great reason to stop, and I think it's something in like in life, like especially if you've gotten in trouble before with anything in life, it's like I don't, you're a thief, but you don't want to go to jail for 5 years. So you have to stop stealing. But if you want to keep stealing, this is what's going to happen. Um,
The deterrent is stronger than the reward in this case for you. You're like, right?
yeah. And then once you're like on the road to doing good, it feels a little bit better. You know what I mean? You're like, whoa, this is actually a new way of life. This is new for me. And I think that could be applied to so many areas of someone's personal life. I try to use that area in all my life, and I think wrestling, honestly, like I feel like the wrestling piece um, really helped me, in every area of my life, from rapping to working. Like, and the only other job I had besides rapping was delivering pizza and working at the rehab that I went to, like as a counselor, as a pop, as a pop manager, just like controlling, called Gen Pop, where you like just, you're taking the people to group, driving them in a van to detox, to back to the programs, and you're kind of like the in between from the and running some groups, and then they have professionals that come in also that are have degrees, masters in clinical psychology, what have you.
What about like in terms of a learning experience wrestling? But what about like prison as well? Was it just like, wow, what the learning experience was that this place sucks and I'm gonna straighten things out because I don't want to go back there? Or there were like things that you learned about yourself that you're able to apply, being in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that like I didn't have no um I just realized that like I have a need for like what's therapeutic to me, writing. Like I just started journaling for the first time since I was locked up, like, and I'm journaling every day, and seeing how therapeutic that is to me, just like writing. Um, Also, the people that helped me when I was there, like a Christian guy made me become more Jewish, and like the 5% or Muslim guy were like more of like the guiders to me than, they're like, you don't need to be, you know what I mean? They were like people that took, like show me respect. And I think on a hip hop level, and especially in a Jewish level now, with, anti-Semitism and understanding anti-Semitism in all its forms, uh, a lot of people don't have that experience that I have. You know what I mean? That like the people that looked out for me weren't Jewish, the people, but they respect me for my work ethic. Cause a lot of people, you'd be surprised, um, if you're known as the hardest worker out of everybody and that you're still here after all these years, you have a different level of respect that is just going to go continuously. Because if your work, if like I continue to be the same person and the same person and the same person, um, to the public eye versus, not the same person personally, like you could keep evolving and changing, um, that earns you a level of respect. People might not agree with you, but you're going to be able to have those conversations with others. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's just helped me in my life personally, like
You
especially in hip hop, if we're like switching it to my own hip hop career for sure.
you would think
So
that this idea of, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. For the most part, there's a lot of wisdom in that, right?
mhm.
That you go through these difficult experiences, and if you're a smart enough person and you come out reasonably intact, then you're able to take from that whatever it is, right? Something negative. We have a question, actually, a good question from Jako Vasilevich, who is
Okay.
a guy from Poland, who was born in Poland, Jewish guy, now lives on Long Island, and he says, "What are you trying to accomplish through your rap? Do you have a bigger picture? What is your dream as a rapper? What would you like to accomplish?"
Oh, it's a great question. Because also you need to think of these questions, like it's a strong, what am I trying to accomplish? I believe currently I love to make people happy. Like I want to write great songs. I want to write hit songs that could reach so many people. Um, because if I have a song that reaches, 10 million people, then I get to personally connect with more people. And I think the biggest thrill of this all is when I get a message, is someone that says that I affected their day or anything, and I get to connect with them, and they're a fan, or they just found me, and it's rewarding, right? Because just like if you think, on social media, you could scroll and the negative comments never end, and the bad stuff never ends. The good stuff also never ends, and there can never be too much good. So with my music specifically, I want to make a hit so I could reach more people and more people could learn my story. I think I have a very interesting story. I think I have a very powerful story. I love to tell it. I've come from, um, a family that didn't have anything, came to America. I'm a first generation Israeli American, recovering drug addict, ex convict that took a different path and as a Jewish artist, and has been told to change who he was, his identity all the time to become more successful, yet have more credibility and achieved more credibility in black art form as a Jewish artist, respectfully to my peers, and also kept my own integrity without changing it, and also being open to changing too throughout the way. And I think that's a story that's not told on a large scale. And I think people need to hear that, and they'll listen to me if they respect me for what I've done. And making a hit song musically will get people to
Yeah,
love you. You know what I'm saying? Because you love that song, then
no,
they love you. You know what I mean?
it
And
opens
they learn
doors
more about.
for sure.
Yeah, it opens doors, and that's the beauty of music, is that one song could like really change the world and change a lot of people's views. And I think when we live in a very hateful world, um, that is super important.
I mean, there's definitely, as I see it, with your music, there's always not always. I mean, it's fun. First of all, I would classify, if I'm using adjectives about your music, I would say it's fun. I think but there's always an educate. So on that level, it has to be. You're not going to just sit there and have rap the encyclopedia to somebody. But
Right.
there's an educational aspect usually to it, right? There's usually, like, in many times, it's not like a hit you over the head message, but there's often sort of, kind of message of tolerance and message of hope, and sort of delivered in a humorous way. But, but definitely it feels like you see yourself as an educator as well.
Yeah, I mean, I use fun music. I call it user-friendly rap music to deal with my dark past. So, for instance, I made a song called Tommy Pickles about the Rugrats, the story like the Rug was this famous cartoon, which is on my new album, Nobody Cares Except You. And like I was going through a dark time. I made this fun song. It's like about the Rugrats. Somebody loves the Rugrats too. This is something we grew up with watching cartoons, and then they find my other serious songs, and you're like, whoa, you have a serious song. I mean, I have a serious song that I did on my 2016 album, which I shot the video in Krakow and in Auschwitz and Birkenau, and that was just something I wanted to do. And then Unilad just shared that to their story, to like millions of people, and I thought, wow, this is something that is just, I'm happy I made it. You know what I mean? Just for that one moment. So you just really never know when people get to connect to you, because I've been doing this a long time, and there's a lot of people. There's 7 billion people, and not that many people have heard my music. So
Just always, right. No matter what, you always think that people, no matter how successful you are, you always realize, oh, this many people did this or that, and everybody. Just when people are like, oh, people are tired about hearing about Polish Jewish life and the rebirth, I'm like, nobody knows about this. We just are in our own. You could be in your own little echo chamber, and you think that the people around you know the story, but in a sense, it's always
Nobody knows it, man. You got a
Yaakov is
little
also, he's also saying, Yaakov Vashlevich, I love your collab with Mayor K.
with Mayor K. Yeah, Mayor K is like I helped write this guy's song. Mayor K is just like an Orthodox Jewish influencer, a really positive guy. It's all about having a great day. Mayor K, have a great day. And I'm like, it's not lyrically what I wanted from, it was a Hanukkah song, right? But these songs travel amongst Jews and Jewish friends and friends of Jewish people that find it because it's big, and then more Orthodox people meet me, and then somebody who was formerly Orthodox found my stuff. And if someone has a large fan base and we could collaborate, no matter what community it is, I'm pretty much down to do it.
Well, who are your
Um,
biggest influences? Just because when I was, I'm older than you. I'm like 10 years older than you. So I grew up in the 80s in New York, and and I remember getting into rap when it wasn't a thing. In other words, like it wasn't a thing among people like white kids in New York City. It was still having just emerged from the Bronx, and it was.
yeah.
I'm talking like, early days, just right when Run DMC kind of came along, and that
Hmm.
really first wave that started to become thing. Before MTV, even played any sort of what was considered black music then. So for me, like Run DMC, Fat Boys, and Houdini,
Right.
stuff
Wow,
like
that's awesome. For me, like opening just up like um Wu-Tang Clan, Biggie Smalls, Tupac. I didn't like this as much, but like Biggie Smalls was really big for me. And that was just all through my friends. And then, my buddy Yak, he like just kind of introduced me to like, CNN, Capone Noriega. This is sort of like the late 90s, early 2000s. But like Wu-Tang was a super influential for me. Um, and then even in 2004, when I discovered Modest Yahoo, that was like the Jewish twist to everything. But even before that, I felt there was some hint of Jewishness, pride, because what was interesting in New York was that at that time, it was whack if you sounded like anybody else. So you actually had to be your own unique thing. And I'm like, well, this is my thing, right? Jewish pride. And I really like the aspect of like the Jewish gangster and like in the Italian world, because I was from Jersey. So like Sopranos was just out at this time. So this was really huge for me in building my identity as an artist. Um, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I want to be like that slimy Jewish guy in Goodfellas. And then it became like that guy with like Necro and Ill Bill and nonfiction, which is like hardcore Jewish rap, but like really great lyrics. And then, Modest Yahoo. So then I was falling in between that. So it was like a spiritual gangster rap. I had so many different Zionist swagger, and there was just so many different things I was playing with, writing my own bio and just seeing what people were reacting to, and other people started making suggestions, and I said, all right, I'll take them. You want me to rap about this or rap about this, rap about that, rap about that, um, and that started developing my freestyle style. As it's freestyling in life, someone says, well, rap about politics, rap about comedy, rap about this, rap, why don't you do that? And it's a
it seems
consistent.
like you're very good at freestyle, and it seems to me that that's a difficult thing. Can you practice? I mean, do you have, obviously you have things that you go to, right? Like I've seen you do it a bunch of times. So,
Mm-hmm.
you see that there's certain things that that this, you know what I mean? You have like stuff that automatically goes in your head.
Right.
But how do you, is it just doing it gets you able to do it? Is there a way that, how do,
Doing it does it. How do you speak Polish, right? You have to practice speaking Polish all the time, right?
yeah,
How do you speak
right.
Hebrew? You speak Hebrew.
But I mean, there's some
There's
idea
a
of studying it, which I'm of course too lazy to do. But yeah, but there are
right.
methods that people have to do it. For me, I just speak it. But I'm saying freestyle rap. Is it just freestyling gets you better at freestyling, or can you
Yeah.
sit down and
More writing gets you better because you're expanding your rhyme patterns. So like I mean I could do one for you if you want to. So like all right, so I'll explain it a bit. So I don't really do it like this. So doing like object freestyles, you're like, okay, this is like thermal flask. That's three syllables. Words of cash. Heard I rap. Burger facts. Lettuce and cheese. Respected as me. Feeling my beats. Playing with keys. And then switching it like I look at it as this. I said, you know, it's kind of like a tour. It's like you start here, right? This is the yo, my name is Kosha Dillz, and the end is and I'm in Krakow. But you have to fill in all the middle part here. And then sometimes you're going up and down and all over, right?
And it's not about
Um,
exact you know, because I think it seems that it's not exactly about rhyming. It's about doing words that work well together, which not necessarily rhyme, but more like adjacent to rhyme, right? It has to have some connection, right?
mm-hmm. um,
Thermal
yeah,
flask, you know, something past, not necessarily flask isn't necessarily task and ask, and you know what I mean?
right.
Words that, I don't know if there's a technical term for it. I'm sure there is, but you know what I'm saying? It has to be something, I guess, not has to be, but you're you're not getting caught up. I guess what I'm saying is like when you're doing it, are you just sort of like searching for a word you have, and you just kind of you have to be able to
Yeah. And also being so
you always find a word, right? You're always
right.
finding something, right? You're never
And
like
if you don't find the word of like you're like looking at your stuff, like, so for instance, you know, not to be embarrassed and having confidence to go into anything. And it really helps. Freestyle rap could help you with so much aspects in life, like public speaking, networking events, dating. Like, I don't know, just go for it, you know, like just, you know, flying, I'm chilling, not the ride for the living. And it's hard. But now I talk about the Jewish star that's above Jonathan's head. Got a lot of this, yes. And I'm not so fresh. I need more practice. And that's how I rap quick, but then I move it slow. Confusing hope. I'm proving flows that you never knew it though, even with this music hope. And I'm Jewish, yo. And then you're like, oh, and it's like up and down, trying to figure out the way to the end of the maze, right? It's a maze, and we are just going, trying to figure out it's not working this way. We got to go back and this way and that way.
appreciate the wordplay very much, especially also like, you know, lots of different stuff. And, you know, somebody jumped like, you know, somebody like with Eminem, where there's like the cadence and the flow is amazing, the sort of staccato. People like,
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's
And I
fascinating.
think the more like what I realize that people have their go-tos, and I realize that I have my go-tos, and like, and my one go-to word is people be like. People be like Kosha Dillz, I'm representing hee haw up and down like a seesaw, playing with the keyboard. And then people be like, yo. And so other people say, I grab the microphone, or I'm on the mic, and I, you know, that's their go-to. They always go, which is they always go to this thing. I
Right.
grab the microphone. Some people might say, check it. um they just keep saying check it, check it, check it, check it.
And I guess there are ways that, you know, if you sort of lose yourself a little bit in it, or you're doing something that you can do, there are like things that you can lean on and then kind of get back. Yeah. Yeah, but
Exactly.
it's always amazed me. Like when I watch, I'm always like, you know, you're kind of watching somebody do it like through your fingers, because it's like you feel like you don't want them to kind of get, you know, to get stuck. Is what I'm saying. But you
Hmm.
don't seem to ever get stuck, which is impressive.
Well, you know, and you get stuck, and it's okay to get stuck, you know.
Yeah.
And that's it. You just dig yourself, dig
Right.
in another direction.
I wanted to
So
switch because I'm mindful of the time. I want to talk about something which is really amazing that you do, which is switching gears. I don't know, not 100, not 180 degrees, but pretty far. Which is about, and something that we're really focused on in Krakow, especially these days, which is what you've done with Sammy Stegman on Clubhouse, which is really a pretty amazing thing. First of all, Sammy's a very cool guy. I had the opportunity to meet him here in Krakow. He has an
mhm.
amazing story as a survivor who was homeless, and then he goes around and is an educator, and he, you know, he talks to people about his experiences, which is something I guess that also resonates. You know, talk about an amazing story like yours. You know, you talk about Sammy.
Right, 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 right.
He's such a warm, wonderful guy, and you brought him on Clubhouse, and just it went nuts. And I just saw you were in Time or in Newsweek about it, which
We were
was
just in Time magazine about
very,
it,
very
which
cool.
is,
So you
yeah,
want to
we were in.
talk for a minute about that? That's really
Yeah,
something
so
great
I
that you
work with my buddy Adam Swig. He has something called Value Culture. It's definitely more of like a culture. It 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 works on, you know, more like Jewish bridge building, so Jewish community outreach versus more like just Jewish things, and you know, so you know, doing like coexistence Shabbats, Black Jewish unity events. So we did something called Solvay, which is a derivative of my event Oive at South by Southwest, which brings together Israeli bands and then other acts. Correct. Um, other acts, for hip hop acts, indie rock acts, and then giving Israeli bands like a chance to just integrate into, American music. So then we're like Solvay's, same acts, but black and Jewish, and this is like we're touching that topic. And then we do, um, Jewish and Asian hate, and that all trying to unify all like marginalized people. Um, we did Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we're like, this app is all about how to sell real estate, how to invest in crypto, how to become popular online, what to do and increase your TikTok following, and just stuff that's important, right? But where's the substance that's just outside of that, right? Where's the stuff that's just a little bit different? Um, I would say that we were talking about it for a while, and I was in New Jersey. I was looking for a place in New York, and I said, "All right, I'm gonna, get a car and drive up to Harlem to meet Sammy, and we're gonna go on this clubhouse thing." We were on it for just a couple of months. It wasn't really so exciting, and we jumped. We were like, "Let's just do it." We did it for like 14 hours, and Sammy was just willing. Hung out with Sammy, and nothing was done with. So we brought the first Holocaust survivor on Clubhouse, an audio app. At that point, had a few million users. Now it has millions more, and that set off a huge Jewish movement on this app, just in general. Um, and it brought to what was different about it was that it was the first time that there were Germans and relatives of like old SS officers that were just opening up on this app to, people in the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, that were there. Black actors, Salt from Salt and Pepper was there.
Wow.
Fab Five Freddy, Lupe Fiasco, who was accused of being anti-Semitic, and all these like, and they're like getting to talk. We're like, yo, just say something to each other, because that's something that they'll remember, and it is something to a point where people are still writing about it because it's unfortunately because now once that happens, then anyway everyone can get on the app, anyone with an opinion and start a room and just name the room anything. But we're like, meet the first Holocaust survivor of Clubhouse, meet the second Holocaust survivor of Clubhouse, meet the third, and just continue to bring them on, and create community for them. And there's no place that could hold 1,200 people. There's no place that could hold 3,700 people to listen to a Holocaust survivor that's not all Jewish, right?
I think that's the beauty of it, is that you're not, so much of what all of us do is preaching to the choir, right? And I think you make an effort, and you're really
preaching to the choir.
What you do is branching out, right? Reaching 3,000 Jews is great. Reaching 3,000 people from all over the world, you're doing a lot. You have a lot more impact than if you just reaching people that you would probably normally reach or know the story, which is great. We started this Holocaust Survivor Day, and we need to figure out a way to see if there's something we can do with you with that. Just there's
when is it?
So it's June 24th. It's really June 26th, but it's a Shabbat, so we're doing it on June 24th, a Thursday. But you think about, there's Holocaust Day in January, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. There's Yom HaShoah. So these days about the Holocaust, and we just felt that survivors are so inspiring to us, and they not what they went through, but then they picked up their lives afterwards, and what that symbolizes and how important they are to us is this living symbol of resilience and strength and optimism of humanity, not only the Jewish people. We thought they deserved their own day. So not a day that's about the Holocaust with survivors part of it, just a day to celebrate, to thank, to focus on survivors. So we started a Holocaust Survivor Day, holocaustsurvivorday.com. We're trying to get the whole world to buy into this thing that they celebrate in their own community any way they want. They want to give an aliyah in synagogue to a survivor. They want to go on Clubhouse and talk to a survivor. They want to have children write letters in school to survivors that day, whatever, just to say thank you and celebrate the survivors. So we think it's getting some traction around the world in different organizations in Israel.
I'd love to help. I'd love to help. Yeah.
Rami, so I'll talk to you about that offline. Just a couple things before, as we finish up. I can talk to you forever, man. You have such an interesting life, and
let's talk about what people want to talk about. I guess we should talk about Israel, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, just a couple of things that I always ask. First of all, I always ask all my guests at the end: are you Team Latka or Team Hamantash? Or you're on Team Pickle.
I wish I could be on two teams, but I'll go with Team Latka.
Well, most people are on Team Latka. And I
Yeah.
usually ask my last random question just because when I was a kid, I thought it was cool. And I always wanted to ask everybody, which is, what are your three favorite films?
Huh, my three favorite films. Okay, Bronx Tale. That's one. I just remember that movie being one of the best. Um, I'll go with I don't know. I wanna say what are the great movies, great Jewish movies that I like is maybe Inglorious Bastards. I think is a good one. Maybe. Um, I'm not. I really don't have a top three, but and then I'll go with Shoosh. There's one more and Goodfellas. I really felt like there's such a movie that I could always watch, and I still always learn so much from it. I always see something new, and like I said, it just reminds me of. I really like things that remind me of when I was going through it, and that was just a time when I was still, I was trying to be someone I wasn't, but I also really like taught embodied a lot of things that I carried still into my recovery of just being like the badass Jewish guy, even though everything what he was doing was illegal and he was kind of the slime ball. I really felt that I was like I feel like I took what I took out of it and just reapplied it in just different areas of my life, and I think it's what's really powerful about film. And a movie
Would you
like
like to
Inglorious
look
Bastards or
at it?
Schindler's List, I just love just Jewish films that show power and strength and perseverance and hope on so many levels.
I don't know if you've read the book, but the book Wise Guy. So there's just sirens. Um, Goodfellas was based on this book called Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi.
Mm-hmm.
Pileggi. And they couldn't call the book, so the book was Wise Guy, but they couldn't call the movie Wise Guy because there was a TV show Wise Guy, which is actually a very underrated TV show with Ken Wall, who he goes undercover. No connection to the book. So because this TV show was Wise Guy, they had to call it Goodfellas. But the book is great. As in most cases, the book is usually better than the movie. But yeah, Wise
Mm.
Guy, I'm a big fan as well. Rami, thank you so much for taking the time. I can't wait to
Ah,
be talking to you. We'll put this up on YouTube, and you can share it as well if you like. And we'll always, you're always welcome here in Krakow. We got to figure a way to bring you back. We had a lot of fun. You've been here a bunch of times, hung out with us, did different stuff with us. We got to get you come on the bicycle ride. And
when is the bicycle ride this year?
this year it's a little iffy because of the whole thing, but come do it in 2022.
I will. And listen, if something comes up where I could come earlier, I'd like to come earlier. And I
Yeah.
always come. Are they doing a Jewish festival this year?
Yeah, also doing something, but not like the full festival. So there'll be something online, but something in person, I think. But we're all still figuring out. It's still Poland's a little bit behind, just starting to people getting vaccinated. So
A little
now,
bit
so it's
behind, right?
a little behind, which has its pluses and minuses. But you always
Right.
have a place here. You're part of the JCC family. We love you here and love to get you back.
I love it. I love that you guys are so welcoming. I love that the Jewish festival brings acts over from Israel and all around the world to celebrate, and that we're welcome out there. And I, man, it is. I just told people about you yesterday. I'm like, man, this place is the best. You got to go there. And once you go there, it'll diminish the fears you had of going to this place to visit, which you so fearfully don't want to go to, and it'll make it that much better. There's no better person to be out there than you, man. So I
Appreciate it.
appreciate you. Yes,
Last
sir.
name last name Dills, first name Kosha. Thank you, man.
Yes, that's right. All right,
I'll
guys.
talk to you later. Thanks,
See
Rami.
ya.
Be
Bye.
good. Bye, everybody.